What if I told you that the most irresistible people in the world, the ones everyone wants to be around, work with, and pursue, all share one psychological secret that goes against everything you've been taught about attracting others? While most people are chasing, pleading, and proving their worth, these magnetic individuals are doing the exact opposite. They've mastered what I call strategic withdrawal, and it makes them absolutely irresistible to everyone around them. Here's the brutal truth that no one wants to admit. The more available you are, the less valuable you become. The more you chase, the faster people run. The more you try to prove your worth, the more worthless you appear. This isn't cruel or unfair. This is basic human psychology. We value what's scarce, we desire what's difficult to obtain, and we chase what moves away from us. Master this principle and you'll never struggle to attract opportunities, relationships, or respect again. The one trick that makes people chase you isn't playing hard to get. It's becoming genuinely hard to get. There's a massive difference between pretending to be valuable and actually being so valuable that your time, attention, and presence become scarce resources that others compete for. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to engineer this psychological dynamic in your own life. The foundation of this principle lies deep in evolutionary psychology. For millions of years, anything that was difficult to obtain signaled higher value and better quality. The fruit at the top of the tree was worth climbing for. The mate who had many options was genetically superior. The leader who was selective about followers commanded more respect. These patterns are hardwired into our brains, and they operate whether we're conscious of them or not. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think they can fake scarcity by being artificially unavailable, by playing games, or by pretending to be busier than they actually are. This backfires because people can sense inauthenticity, and fake scarcity feels manipulative. Real scarcity, the kind that makes people chase you, comes from genuinely having so much value to offer and so many opportunities available that you can afford to be selective. The first element of strategic withdrawal is what I call abundant selectivity. This means having so many options in any given area of your life that you can choose quality over quantity. Instead of saying yes to every social invitation, you only attend events where you'll genuinely enjoy yourself or meet interesting people. Instead of taking every business opportunity, you only pursue projects that align with your goals and values. Instead of being available to everyone who wants your time, you protect your energy for people and activities that actually matter. This isn't about being rude or antisocial. It's about understanding that your time and energy are finite resources that should be invested, not spent. When you start treating your attention as valuable, other people begin to value it too. When you become selective about who gets access to you, people start competing for that access. When you say no more often, your yes becomes more meaningful. The psychology here is powerful. People want what they can't have, and they value what's difficult to obtain. When you're easily accessible to everyone, you signal that your time isn't particularly valuable. But when you're selective and sometimes unavailable, you create what psychologists call perceived scarcity, which dramatically increases your attractiveness and influence. The second element is emotional unpredictability. Most people are emotionally predictable. They're always enthusiastic, always agreeable, always available to provide validation and support. But the most magnetic people have emotional range. Sometimes they're warm and engaging. Sometimes they're distant and mysterious. Sometimes they're incredibly supportive. Sometimes they're challenging and direct. This unpredictability creates what psychologists call an intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is the most addictive pattern of behavior known to psychology. Think about gambling. People don't get addicted to slot machines because they always win. They get addicted because they sometimes win in unpredictable patterns. The uncertainty creates dopamine spikes that keep people coming back for more. The same principle applies to human relationships. People become more attached to those whose emotional responses they can't predict or control. But here's the sophisticated part. This isn't about being moody or unstable. It's about having authentic emotional range and expressing it honestly. Sometimes you're genuinely excited about something. Sometimes you're genuinely focused on your work and less socially available. Sometimes you're in the mood to connect deeply. Sometimes you need space to think. When you express your authentic emotional states instead of always being on for others, you become more interesting and less predictable. The third element is excellence obsession. The most irresistible people are those who are clearly exceptional at something. They've developed skills, knowledge, or capabilities that others admire and want to learn from. This creates natural magnetism because everyone wants to be around people who can teach them something or help them grow. But the key is that they're pursuing excellence for its own sake, not to impress others. When you become genuinely excellent at something, whether it's your career, a hobby, a skill, or even just the way you think about problems, you naturally become more interesting to be around. People seek you out because you add value to their lives. You have insights, experiences, and capabilities that they can't get elsewhere. This creates genuine scarcity because there are limited numbers of people who have achieved real excellence in any given area. The psychological principle here is called social proof combined with aspiration. People are drawn to those who represent what they want to become. When you're clearly excellent at something, you become a symbol of possibility for others. They chase you not just for who you are, but for who they might become by being around you. The fourth element is outcome independence. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive aspect of strategic withdrawal. The people who are most chased are those who genuinely don't need to be chased. They're so fulfilled by their own lives, so confident in their own value, and so focused on their own goals that they don't need external validation or approval to feel complete. This creates a fascinating psychological dynamic. When you don't need people to like you, they become more interested in earning your approval. When you don't need opportunities to come to you, they start flowing more naturally. When you don't need relationships to define your worth, you become more attractive as a relationship partner. It's the ultimate paradox of attraction. The less you need it, the more you get it. But outcome independence isn't about not caring about anything. It's about deriving your sense of worth and satisfaction from internal sources rather than external validation. You care deeply about your goals, your growth, your standards, and your values. You just don't need other people's approval to feel good about yourself. This confidence is magnetic because it's so rare in a world where most people are desperately seeking validation from others. The fifth element is strategic unavailability. This is different from being busy. It's about being intentionally selective about when and how you're available to others. You might have specific times when you're accessible for socializing and other times when you're completely focused on your work or personal development. You might be incredibly present and engaged when you're with someone, but not immediately responsive to every text or call. The key is consistency and authenticity. You're not randomly unavailable to create artificial scarcity. You have legitimate reasons for your unavailability that align with your values and goals. Maybe you don't check social media during work hours because you're focused on professional excellence. Maybe you don't answer personal calls after 9 p.m. because you value your rest and reflection time. Maybe you only socialize on weekends because your weekdays are dedicated to building your business. This type of unavailability actually makes your availability more valuable. When people know that your time is limited and purposefully allocated, they appreciate it more when they get access to it. They plan better conversations, they come more prepared with interesting topics, and they value the interaction more highly because they know it's not unlimited. The sixth element is value creation lifestyle. The most irresistible people are those who are clearly creating value in the world. They're building something, improving something, contributing something that makes other people's lives better. This could be through their work, their art, their relationships, or their community involvement. The key is that they're focused on creation rather than consumption, on giving rather than getting, on building rather than just existing. When you're genuinely focused on creating value, several magical things happen. First, you become more interesting because you have real experiences and challenges to talk about. Second, you develop confidence and competence that others find attractive. Third, you attract other value-creating people who want to collaborate or learn from you. Fourth, you become less needy because you're fulfilled by the act of creation itself. People are naturally drawn to creators because they represent possibility and progress. When you're building something meaningful, others want to be part of that journey. They chase you because being around you makes them feel like they're part of something important and growing. The seventh and final element is mysterious depth. The most magnetic people reveal themselves in layers. They don't put everything on display immediately. They have interests, experiences, skills, and perspectives that emerge gradually over time. This creates what I call discovery addiction. People become hooked on uncovering new facets of your personality and capabilities. This isn't about being secretive or withholding information to manipulate others. It's about having genuine depth and complexity that unfolds naturally through authentic interaction. Maybe you're an expert in something unexpected. Maybe you've had fascinating life experiences that only come up in relevant conversations. Maybe you have unusual perspectives or skills that aren't immediately obvious. The psychology here connects to the principle of progressive disclosure. People become more invested in things they discover gradually because they feel like they've earned the knowledge through relationship building. When someone has to spend time with you to really understand who you are and what you're about, they become more attached to the relationship because they've invested effort in it. Now, here's where all these elements combine to create irresistible magnetism. When you have abundant selectivity, you naturally become more scarce. When you combine this with emotional unpredictability, you become more interesting. Add excellence, obsession, and you become more valuable. Include outcome independence, and you become more confident. Layer in strategic unavailability, and you become more precious. Mix in value creation, and you become more compelling. Top it off with mysterious depth, and you become more addictive. The result is that people begin to chase you not because you're playing games, but because you've genuinely become someone worth chasing. You're scarce because you have better things to do than be constantly available. You're unpredictable because you have authentic emotional range. You're excellent because you've invested in developing real capabilities. You're outcome independent because you're fulfilled by your own goals and growth. You're strategically unavailable because you're building something meaningful. You have mysterious depth because you're genuinely complex and interesting. But here's the most important part. This isn't about manipulation or playing games with people's emotions. This is about becoming the most authentic, valuable, and interesting version of yourself. When you genuinely embody these qualities, you're not tricking people into chasing you. You're giving them legitimate reasons to want to be around you, learn from you, and contribute to your life. The ancient Stoics understood this principle perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote about focusing on what you can control and being indifferent to outcomes. Seneca taught about the importance of having something more important than other people's opinions. Epictetus emphasized that true freedom comes from not needing anything external for your happiness. These weren't social strategies, they were life philosophies that happened to make these men incredibly influential and sought after. The one trick to make people chase you isn't really a trick at all. It's a lifestyle upgrade. It's becoming so genuinely valuable, interesting, and fulfilled that people naturally want to be part of your world. It's developing the kind of life that others aspire to have, and the kind of character that others respect and admire. When you achieve this, you don't have to make people chase you. They'll chase you because being around you makes their lives better, more interesting, and more meaningful. Remember, the goal isn't to have people chase you for the sake of ego or validation. The goal is to become so valuable and fulfilled that you naturally attract high-quality people, opportunities, and experiences into your life. When you achieve this level of authentic magnetism, you'll find that the right people chase you for the right reasons, and you'll have the wisdom and discernment to choose which pursuits are worth your time and which ones aren't.